Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Stinchfield. So I never thought I would say this in my lifetime, but the United States has surrendered to radical jihadists hell-bent on waging a holy war against the world. Joe Biden, after 20 years and nearly 7,000 American servicemen and contractors lost in Afghanistan, kneels to the Taliban. He indicated he will submit to the Taliban's demand of complete American exit by August 31st. Undoubtedly, we will strand abandoned American citizens who right now have no way to escape. It is a war crime for a commander-in-chief to leave behind so many Americans while bowing down to our enemy. Listen to the audacity now of the enemy, by the way.
They have opportunity, they have all the resources, they can take all the people that belong to them. We are not going to allow Afghans leave, and we will not extend the deadline.
He's making demands? Come on. Since when does a goat-herding warlord intent on killing anyone who does not subscribe to radical Islam, since when does he get to call the shots against the most powerful nation in the world? Terrorists don't decide what America does, unless, of course, we're in America with Joe Biden as president. This idea of rolling over to the Taliban has every enemy of this nation plotting and planning its next move against us or our allies. This is Joe Biden today, giving remarks after delaying not once, but twice, 5 hours late, and of course, not sticking around for a single question.
The completion by August 31st depends upon the Taliban continuing to cooperate and allow access to the airport for those who were transporting out and no disruptions to our operations. We must all work together to resettle thousands of Afghans who ultimately qualify for refugee status. The United States will do our part.
Again, more importation of poverty and begging of our enemy. We're not working with the Taliban. You think they're going to work with us? You're an idiot, sir. 15 minutes that speech went on for. No questions and a lot of begging. What we didn't get was a single mention of the stranded Americans, only about Afghan refugees who are about to flood this nation. Where is the outrage? Even amongst Democrats, shouldn't there be outrage? The party claiming to be so focused on saving lives related to the China virus, well, they seem to be resigned to let the Taliban execute Americans left in Afghanistan. Why is there still no will to save those lives still left behind?
I think it's very unlikely, given the number of Americans who still need to be evacuated, the number of SIVs, the number of others who are members of the Afghan press, civil society leaders, women leaders. It's hard for me to imagine all of that can be accomplished between now and the end of the month.
Not that we give a shiff about what he has to say, but he's on the Intelligence Committee, and you can see there he doesn't really seem to care either that we will not meet the deadline of August 31st that Joe Biden has accepted. It's insanity. Republicans, thankfully, finally responded today with a strong message to Joe Biden and his very weak military generals.
At no time should America ever bend or allow the Taliban to tell us when we have to stop bringing Americans out. We should stay until every single American is able to get out of Afghanistan.
If any American is harmed or killed and not safely evacuated, or if any of this military equipment or weapons are used to harm or kill an American, the blood is directly on Joe Biden's hands.
A Taliban takeover equals Al-Qaeda 3.0. And one thing that Joe Biden either won't admit or doesn't understand is that what happens in Afghanistan doesn't stay in Afghanistan. It spreads like a cancer.
Does anyone remember September 11th, 2001? That started in Afghanistan, by the way. Joe Biden apparently doesn't remember. Think about what Joe Biden did, by the way. He armed our enemies. He ordered the military to recklessly leave behind $83 billion worth of military equipment. Helicopters, armed vehicles, and yes, guns. Guns that will be used to kill Americans Joe Biden abandoned in Afghanistan. There is actually video, if you can believe this, of the Taliban wearing U.S. military gear while patrolling the streets. That is an utter disgrace, what you're seeing on your screen there. But this is what Democrats do. They take guns away from the good guys, you and me, while having a long history of giving guns to the bad ones. Let's go back to 2012. Barack Obama made the mistake of arming Syrian rebels. These rebel groups not only surrendered to ISIS invaders, but they ended up joining them, moving between Iraq and Syria using American-provided weapons against our soldiers. Some of those weapons discovered in their massive cache included U.S. Army purchased anti-tank missile launchers, not to mention thousands of automatic rifles used on the battlefield, thanks to Joe Biden, thanks to Barack Obama, against our men and women. And don't forget the botched ATF Fast and Furious, an Obama-era gun-walking scandal that had the ATF allowing gun traffickers to send American weapons to Mexican cartel members. The goal was to track the weapons down in an expectation that arrests would follow. They really never did. Instead, the cartels used the guns to kill Americans. Lots of them, including Border Patrol agent Brian Terry. If history tells us anything, handing over our weapons to the Taliban will have disastrous ramifications, and Joe Biden kneeling before the Taliban will only empower them. Listen to Jen Psaki today admit Americans can be left in Afghanistan after the deadline.
Our commitment continues to be to U.S. citizens. If they want to leave, we will help get them out.
No matter what the day.
Again, we expect there could be some, but I'm not going to get into it further. Go ahead.
No, of course they don't want to get into it further because they're war criminals. They know they're going to leave Americans stranded there after this deadline. The White House doesn't care. Again, it's a war crime for a commander-in-chief to allow all of this to happen. All of it, though, is taking a real human toll on Americans, on Afghan partners left behind. Look at these two young children. None of this is any fault of their own. Somehow left behind by their parents fleeing the chaos. And it takes an Afghani in the crowd to send, well, a very clear message to Joe Biden.
Mr. Biden, you did this, you planned this, you made the deal with the Taliban. This is the consequences of it. This is the repercussions of it. Mr. Biden, it's your ill calculation. You were against Trump, now we are against you.
That man, Joe Biden ought to listen to. He's certainly not listening to us on this program, and he's certainly not listening to anybody else that's calling him out for the idiocy and the devastating consequences that he has created now. Well, joining me now is Republican Congressman of Florida, Afghanistan vet and Green Beret, Mike Waltz is here. Congressman, it's good to have you on the program. I know you've been very busy today. I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Yeah, well, this is a fight that we have to fight. And we have to fight it now. Like, as you said in your lead up before, we have Al-Qaeda 3.0 that's going to hit the homeland again. But we are on a trajectory for exactly that to happen.
Are you amazed that there's no sense of urgency about getting Americans out? Sir, you are a Green Beret. Between you and the Navy SEALs, I don't think there's a finer fighting force in the world Your Green Berets could go in there and get Americans out with the snap of a finger, could they not?
We have special operators. I'm in touch with some of them. They are ready to go right now, tonight, to start pulling Americans out, but they have their hands tied from a risk-averse, weak, and feckless White House. DOD, the Defense Department, is ready to go. General Milley made it clear today they're ready to stay beyond August 31st. The mission is complete when we have every single American out. Jen Psaki, Biden, and others keep talking about this caveat if they want to leave. Every American I know is begging to get out, but they have about a dozen Taliban checkpoints between them and safety. This is the United States of America. We do not leave Americans behind, and we do not let terrorists dictate the terms. What Biden ought to be saying is we're coming to get every single American and every single Afghan that was willing to take a bullet standing alongside us. And you know what, Taliban? There's going to be consequences. There's going to be bombs on foreheads if you get in our way. That's what the Taliban understand, period. But every time we send another official in there to go begging and pleading, it only emboldens them in jihadi circles. We're actually making them stronger with this weak rhetoric.
I've said over and over again, and my son is 12 years old, I said Stinchfields don't beg for their lives. And when I look at the military, when I look at Americans overseas, Americans shouldn't be begging for their lives either. Joe Biden is begging with the Taliban.
Yeah, and he's letting them dictate the terms. And pretty soon, if you listen very closely, I think they're setting the stage to actually recognize the Islamic Emirate. This is something that I want everyone to be crystal clear on. There is no difference between the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. They are married at the hip. The number two of the Taliban, a terrorist by the name of Siraj Haqqani, is Al-Qaeda. This is Al-Qaeda 3.0, and as we head into the 20th anniversary of 9/11, it blows my mind for every 9/11 victim, veteran, and Gold Star family out there that we're going to face these kind of threats again. But we're going to lead from Congress. We're going to fight this. We have groups of special operators working around their own government to make this happen. We're going to embolden the resistance. I'm not going to wait for another 9/11 or Pulse nightclub or San Bernardino